Okay, so there's the get up. It's a complex little movement, but let's break it down in stages now to help you master the individual sections. So let's start with our setup, and first of all, our legs. Now, when we're laying on our back, we want to have that 45 to 90 degree angle between our legs. Now, this will allow us to sit up and across because the get up isn't quite a sit up. If we start to just sit up in a forwards motion, we're going to find it very hard to get up into that post position and rest on our elbows. So when we're driving up, we want to think about driving up and across to the down leg. Now that other leg with the side with the bell on it needs to be in a position to allow you to drive up and across. So we need that nice healthy angle between the legs here. And now when we're laying down to pick the bell up, we also want to start in a position where we have that bell in front of our stomach. Now this is really important because when we roll over onto our back, this allows us to keep our elbow on the ground and we can set our feet from here. So by keeping the elbow on the ground, that's going to help reduce fatigue of your shoulder and allow you to get set before we press that bell up and get ready for our get up. So when we're sitting there from our drive up, remember the tips are drive up and across. We also want to suck these toes back into the body. The cue you want to think about here is kneecap into quads. And then when we're driving up and across into that post position, we want to make sure we're forcing that knee on that up leg slightly outwards. That creates that activation of the glute to drive up and across. So let's have a look without the weight of what our setup to post looks like. So we start with that kettlebell in front of our stomach. We cup with our spare hand. We roll over onto our back. We press up so that bell is above our shoulder. We keep that nice healthy angle between the legs and that spare arm becomes parallel with the outstretched leg. Then we drive up nice and tall into that post position. Now remembering with this post position, we want to be nice and tall with our joints stacked. So elbow to shoulder to shoulder to elbow to wrist here. And we're nice and tall. We maintain a big chest and those toes are still pulled back in the movement like so. So when we get down from the get up position, we push away from that bottom arm down onto our back. So as you can see, we use this leg to drive up and across, the toes are pulled back, the joints are stacked. And they're pretty much the important points you need to remember. Now when we're coming up into the tall sitting position, it's just a simple pivot of the hand, like so. So you can see those fingers point 90 degrees, they rotate 90 degrees out, and then that allows us to maintain that big chest and tall position. From here, you'll also notice that challenge of hip mobility. So if you are struggling to get into the right position due to tight hips, make sure you bounce back to the Unlocking Your Movement series to help free up and open your hips to get into this correct position. And to get back down, we simply pivot those fingers, coming back down onto the elbow into that stacked position. So let's have a look at it all together now. And that's into our tall sitting. Now to get into our half kneeling, it's a simple low bridge with a leg sweep. The cue or the placement that I want you to think about here is hand in line with the knee and the foot. There's one line on this back side. This allows our femur to be vertical and our weight to be supported by that leg. We can then come up into that half kneeling position and we're almost ready to lunge up into standing. So from here, our eyes have been on the bell until this point. Once we get here, our eyes come forward and we windshield wiper that foot into our lunge position. We can also reposition this front foot. If we're a bit out of position, this is the time that we can find the right position for our lunge and our stand up into the top position. Coming back down the movement, we simply bring our eyes back to the bell, windshield wiper that foot again. We sit into our hip, hand down the thigh, and we place that hand back out into that side kneeling position. We can then leg sweep, down into tall sitting. So let's have a look at it all together from the tall sitting to the half kneeling position. And back down. So there's our tall sitting to half kneeling. Once we get to that half kneeling position, it's a simple lunge and a stand to the top position. Pretty straightforward from here. To get back down, we make sure we take a big enough step back into that lunge portion, and our eyes come back on the bell, windshield wiper that foot, hand down the thigh, into that side kneeling position, leg sweep, down into tall sitting, pivoting on the hand, down onto the elbow, pushing away from that bottom arm, down onto the back. We lower the bell down and we roll out of the movement. So it's pretty straightforward if you can follow those logical little steps one after the other and remember the important cues and points. Let's take a look at it now in a full unweighted get up all together so you can understand the flow and the cues and the catchwords all on top of each other. So starting with that kettlebell in front of the stomach, we roll over onto our back. Our elbow stays in contact with the floor at this point. We set our feet, toes are pulled back on that down leg, and this leg with the bell on the side, we keep that foot in a position we can drive up and across into the movement. We press that bell up, that unloaded hand runs parallel with the outstretched leg, sharp breath in, up into post. We pivot on our hands, up into tall sitting, low bridge, leg sweep, remembering the hand, knee and foot in alignment. We come up into half kneeling, our eyes come forward. We windshield wiper that foot, we stand up into the top position. Big step back, soft contact with the knee, eyes on the bell, windshield wiper that foot, hand down the thigh, sitting into that hip, leg sweep into low bridge, down into tall sitting, pivoting on the hand, down onto the elbow, and pushing away from that bottom arm down onto the back. Hands on, lower down, roll out. So we've gone through the individual stages of the get up, and there's lots of little intricate details to be able to pull off an effective get up. But once you've mastered the individual stages and you feel confident you're almost ready to add a weight into the mix, I want you to do the shoe test for me. Now, the shoe test, people sometimes laugh, but what this allows you to do by balancing a shoe on your fist, like so, throughout the whole entire get up, shows whether you have the mobility and the positions right to be able to add a load like a kettlebell. So let's go through a quick shoe test to then move on once we've mastered it, up to the kettlebell. So remembering with the shoe test, we don't want that thumb involved in actually holding the kettlebell there. We just simply want it resting on our fist. We set our feet, toes are pulled back on that down leg, kneecap into quad. Outstretched arms parallel with that leg. Sharp breath in. Up into post, sorry. Now remembering joints stacked here. We pivot on the hand up into tall sitting, low bridge, into leg sweep, up into half kneeling, eyes forward, windshield wiper that foot, up into standing. A big step back, knee just comes in soft contact with the floor. Eyes are on the shoe, windshield wiper that foot, hand down the thigh, pushing into the hip, down into side kneeling, leg sweep, down into low bridge, down into tall sitting, pivoting on the hands, down into post, nice and tall, and pushing away from that bottom arm down into the back. And there we have it, guys. If you can nail it both sides with the shoe, you are ready to add weight. So we've gone through our cues and our points to remember with our get up, And we've also conducted our shoe test and we've passed that with flying colours. Let's add the weight back in now and let's go through a full rep so we can recap on what we've just learnt.